Hello, this is Christian. Welcome to episode 4 of this video series. In this part of the video, we're going to implement the registration page for the user. Last time we did a login. I was able to log in with my username and a password, ABC123. Yeah, I'm logged in, as you can see here. So we're good here. And one thing I did a tiny change is to make this into uppercase, okay? And as you can see, it was a lowercase before, and I'll show you what that is. Okay, so let's go into our code and create this registration form. So in the login page, all I did was use this built-in function called UC first. That means uppercase the first character, and I wrap that with the username, so that will be uppercase. So that's really helpful there. Okay, so now for the registration page, I copied the same one from the sign up page. So I'm going to modify this, and we'll just use this. So on the bottom here, this would say show not guestbook form, but registration form. Okay, and so let's go and create our form first. In the include functions file, I will copy the guestbook form and just move that to the bottom. And we'll just add it down here. So let's say user registration form. And we'll just rename this to say show registration form. This will be register form. Something like that makes more sense to me. Okay, so this will be guestbook controls. You can rename it to, to register, just in case you have more control, or maybe registration controls. Okay, I'll do that. We'll change all these to that for now, and then I'm going to open my CSS and change that right away before I forget. So here we have all these right here, the controls. So I'm going to duplicate that line, and then I'm going to come out here, and this will be registration controls. And then same thing here as well. Control D to duplicate the line, replace these two with registration controls. I don't have a text area. The input I do need. So I put that and then input. Let's see, I also need the labels. So here, I just put label. And I think that's all I need for that one. Well, here too maybe. Dot registration form controls. Okay, so those are all the same. They all share the same CSS. Okay, so now I need to change this to say username. This is email. This would be, I don't need this part here. And I'm gonna, let's change this first. Username. Replace that with that. Here is email will stay the same. I'll copy this, put it down here, and this will be password. So copy that, put here, here, and here, capitalize the P. And this also be a type equals to password. Okay. And then usually when you have a sign up form, you want to make them enter twice. So we could call it confirm password. Oop, that stays the same. And then here will be just confirm password. And submit. I'm going to have a value. I'm going to call it, register. Okay, I think that's my form, and that's good to go. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 fields, 5 plus the submit, right? Okay, so let's save that. Now go back to the register page, and here the messages will be showing when we submit, and then it goes in here. If there's any messages here, we'll put it here. But also I want to show the error messages, so I'll put right below here. And the class will be the same as before we used for the login. It's going to be the same layout. But now I'm going to have an error messages. I'm going to have a couple of them, right? Because I have a couple of fields. So I'll probably use a for loop in here to loop through a error. So I'll put here show messages, show error messages. I'll come back and implement this part. For now, let's go to the red tab first and see what we need. So that part, maybe I don't need this, or do I? Yeah, if I do, I'll just say register. I just put user registration. User registration. And that will replace the title of that page. Okay, I show the form, and I'll need an array for error messages. So I'll put errors equals empty array. Okay, it will store all the error messages here. Now, when I insert the data, when I get the data, I want to notice I will use the same function. Okay, you can have a different function if you want, but since it's already here, I use the same function. We'll just modify it to accept the same post here. If you pass post to it. Now notice again we have 5 fields. We just want to pass the fields that we need. Okay, and the message will be successfully inserted. Will say thank you for registering. And then login here, and then we'll put a link. Just go to the login.php file, right? PHP. So we'll put the whole thing as a link. Okay, so now the show form is false. When that happens, then down here, then the form will not be visible, right? Okay. And then otherwise, we have some error. Okay. So first things first, let's go and fix our function here because we'll make sure this function also works for the sign up page. Right? When we sign up, we call the same function. We pass in the post information to that form. So in here, somewhere in the DB file, we have insert one record. Okay, here it was very specific only for the guestbook. We're going to change this by using a loop to fetch all the data from the data here, and then we'll loop through that data to create this part of the query. Okay, so I'm going to comment this out for now, and then I'm going to create a empty string to store the temp string query. And so I'm going to say something like, well, we're going to loop through that data. It's an object, right? It's an array, has keys. So I'm going to say for each of the data key element, get the value. Let's call it value. All right, and then for each value, and I'm going to append that to the current string. And so here will be the tricky part. This string here will represent each of these. Okay, so make sure they have the same, exactly same format. So for example, I can copy this and notice each of these is separated by a comma. And you have to be careful because you cannot put a comma at the end here like that. It won't work. Okay, it has to be like this. You cannot put a comma at the end. So I can copy this, for example, copy that and put it right in here. Except instead of name, it will be value, right? So I'm building my strings this way, and then here put a comma. That's this comma here. For the next one, and so on. So when I reach the end of that string, then I'm going to have a string with all these fields, but has a comma at the end. I just mentioned you can't do that. So what do? Well, you have to strip off the last comma. So over here, you can do something like this. String is reassigned, that string, with a couple of ways to do it. You can use a string replace, a substring, or a right trim, or many others. Okay, one of the easier one I'm going to use is called the R trim for the right trim. R trim, as you can see, I put the string here. What am I trimming? From the right side, it's just a single character with the comma. So remove the last character. So put here remove last character. And then now my string is now set. So this whole part then is replaced with this string. And so that should be fine. And for now we'll run it I'll also echo this out so I can see what it looks like. And if there's anything here else, we'll just fix it. So for now, I'm gonna go and make sure that I'm still able to sign up for the guestbook. Okay, so let's go back here and go to the guestbook here. If I put in here something, Lois Lane, ll@lane.com, hi Clark. Okay, submit, and I got an error because the sign up page didn't work. So what happened here? All right, so something is wrong there. Let's see what happens. So when I go to I think I saw it went to the wrong page or something for some reason. Let's sign up page. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. Let's try again. I'm gonna refresh it just in case I get a refresh. And let's try one more time. Sign guestbook. Okay, so try again. Hi, Clark. Submit. And so there you go. For some reason, it has a caching issue. So you can see I have my result here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 part, right? I don't want to submit. So the submit is the extra field, so therefore it wouldn't work. We need to remove that last field. And if you go to the guestbook, you see that it's not registered. Okay? So that is this you need to do is when you submit the form to this here, the post, because the submit comes with it, you want to remove the submit. So what you can do is you can unset this from the post array. So you can do something like this. You can do above here or in here, it doesn't matter. You can say unset the post and remove that submit from that array. And so now it contains only those 3 fields, the user, the name, email, and the message. So if I save that, and let's go and try one more time. Guestbook, I'll use the same. And hi Clark. And there we go. It seems to be okay. My fields are correct. I see my guestbook, and there it is. Okay, so far so good. So that works. So now our registration form should do the same. This one we have 4 fields, but when we send it to the function, we just need a username, email, and the password, just those 3 fields. We want to remove this and also remove the unset, the submit button, because our function, our table has only 3 fields. Okay, so back in here, sign up page, we're done here. Register page, so we do something similar. So here, I'm going to unset the post for the submit. I don't need that for now. I still need the password because I need to validate that first, right? And the table will be not guest, but will be the users table. Okay. So before I reach this part, I want to verify my password, make sure they match, and make sure they match, and make sure they have the same, has some validation. So before I do this in my form, I'm going to add in here a attribute required. So they are required. Okay. Okay, so those are required. All right, so now the first thing I want to do is so usually you want to trim off any white spaces. So if I enter a lot of white spaces in my username, that's not allowed, right? So you want to say something like this and say, you can go through the whole list and do that manually, right? Say a username is equal to trim and then post like that, and username and like that, right? So forth, and the password and so on. So instead of doing this way, I'm going to do a function, a loop. So again, for each loop, I'm going to get for each element from the post as I need as a value, and I check the value. I'm gonna reassign that with a temp item, I guess. I call it item is, then I'm going to trim it off. trim off the value. And then when I trim it off, if it's empty, then I have to issue an error, right? So I would say something like if the length of the string length of the, oh, not that one, item is less than 0 or equal to 0, right? That means it's empty. If that's the case, then I will add an error to this here, error field. So I put errors is, I got to push it to the error array, and I put here, I want to put whatever this field is, right? If it's the username is empty, then I want to say username is empty, right? Contains white spaces only. So you want to put the key here. So that means I can get the key also by doing something like this. Key points to values, like that. So I get both the keys and the values. So here I would say key, and then append that what the message is invalid or something. At least, right? So every key, if it's error, you put that in here. And then we are good here. Else, if it's good to go, then I'm going to update my post again. I don't want to create another object, just update the same one. So here we'll say post, update the key, wherever the key is, with its new item. This item is already trimmed off. Here, just remove white spaces. Okay, so far so good. So when we're done down here, we either have error messages or we don't. So you can check down here. So if there are no error messages, so if the error messages was not set, then go ahead and do this part. Okay, so we're going to put that inside that if block here. All right, if there's error, then we skip that. I'm just going to go down to the page. So now I put a message here, no errors, good to go. Okay, so now before I insert into the record, I need to compare the two passwords, right? So I need to put here the password from the post password. And then I need to also get the confirm password. And then I need to compare them to see if they're correct or not. So I'll say if the password is not equal, or in this case it will be equal to the confirm password, then go ahead and then do this. So you can see this now needs to go inside here now, right? What happens if it's not equal? Well, if it's not equal, then we have to add an error. So if that's an error, then the else part is down here, right? So the else part, and I add a message to the errors. You can say passwords do not match. So because they don't match. Wrong place. Yeah, wrong place. These needs to go in here. Okay, so make sure I have this right. This for that. Okay, yeah, so I'm missing one thing. For each, this 4 is for that. Okay, we're confusing now. Let's try one more time. Let's undo this. All right, so it's right here. Errors, passwords do not match. Okay, so that's good. So once they match, we go and insert that to the post, the database. Before we do that, though, again, we want to remove this. We don't need that. Remove the submit already, which we did already. So we just need the username, email, and password. So here, I'm going to do the same thing. Unset the post. Post of confirm password. So remove that from the list. And then go ahead and insert that record using the post. Okay, so we're good, I think. Let's go and give it a test. Something wrong, unable to not sign Guestbook, but to register. Okay. And let's give it a try. So let's save that. Go to the page, refresh the page, go to registration. If I submit, right, these are required. If I put white spaces, okay, white spaces, and somehow didn't do anything here. Let's just try something here. User1, you at user.com, 123, 123. Okay, so it seems like I was able to register, and here's user1, we can verify in the database. Refresh this, you see that I have user1 here, and my password is 123, so I can go back and verify I can log in or not. Is user1 and then 123, and I'm able to log in. So that seems to be working correctly. Now let's try again by doing some errors. So if I put user 2 and U2 here, and I put the password 123, and then here 1111. So it should fail, right? So it does fail. It did not register, although I didn't throw the error messages, right? So we did put the error messages here. So let's go and implement that. I think we left that undone before, right here. Then we're going to do a loop for each of the error messages as error. Then we're going to output each of those here. So I'll use the span just like the other one, a star, and then we'll put the error here. Whatever the error messages are, we'll put them there. Oops, close the span and put a BR at the end. Okay, we should see the errors now. So let's go back and refresh that page again, register. If I just click, put white spaces, register. So there are, so here are the messages, right? All these are invalid. Yeah, that's good. Now if you can, uppercase all these so they make more sense, but at least you know that these are the error messages. If I put something like user2 and email2 and passwords doesn't match, 1 and then 1, 2. So I get a password do not match. Okay, so far so good. Now, one last thing you want to do is, what if the user is already registered? You don't want to duplicate that user. Okay, and we did not do that in the database. So initially, your structure should have been set so that the user field is unique, and maybe the email too, if you want to. But let's just say we don't care about the email, but the user should be unique. So what you can do is here. I didn't set it to unique, so you can change the afterwards. If you go to the right side and make that a unique field, and just say yeah. So now this username is now unique. Okay. So if I enter the same name, it's going to fail. And if I do that again, if I go back to user 1, and it doesn't matter here, 1212, you see that it seems to be okay. I have user 1. Let's see what happens. Did I have that registered or not? Yeah, actually, it didn't do it, right? Because it's already there. Okay. But we need to verify that in our code. And so let's do that really quick. So then what we need to do is, before we do the insertion, we need to verify to make sure the user is not already there. Okay, so right here, before we do the insertion here, I need to verify that user. So let's see what we do here. We can write a function in here to verify user. I have verified password, so you can write another one here. Function to verify user. and handle the username, and then just the table. Curlies. And so we'll do a query kind of similar to this one here. I'm going to copy this and just put it right in here. So select everything from the table with a username. We go to username. We make the query. If the number is greater than 1, that means it exists. So I'm not going to do this part. I'm just going to return true. Otherwise, return false. So here, we'll just say a user exists. Okay, and so we'll put true here. So I should probably put a different word here. Is user valid? Let's keep it as it was. Verify user. I want to be something like is duplicate or something, but we know that it's going to be a duplicate, right? Put a comment here. Check to see if user name is already taken. Okay. And if it's true, then it's taken. Otherwise, it's false. So now back in the registration, we can do something like this. When I compare the password, they are before I even do all of these stuff, I can do up here first. Again, depends how you do it, right? So I want to do something like this. I could say if verify user, pass in the connection string, the username will be password, the post username, and then the table will be user. Okay, if this is not true, then have an if it's true, then have an error. So I'll put here the error messages. User name is taken. Else, then go ahead and do all of these. Okay, so all these here will be inside the else part. All right. So let's see if that works. And let's save this. Yeah, so let's try. Let's go back here. Okay, I know I have user 1 is taken, so I'm going to register user 1. Email doesn't matter. Password 1234 1234 1234. So I get a username is taken, right? So I put here user 2 and U2 and 1234 1234, and I'm good to go. So here we go. I'm able to log in using user 2 and 1234, and I'm logged in. Okay, so this is how you would do your registration form. I'm going to go back and then just remove my message in the DB here. I don't need to echo this out anymore. It's just for debugging purposes. And that's how you do it. So if you have any questions, please let me know.